You and I in a little toy shop, buy a bag of balloons with the money.
Let's buy the balloon, Sheriff!
To one by one.
Take two!
Back at base, box in the software, flash the message. Something's out there, floating.
We are out here!
99 red balloons go by.
It's the weekend. This is the second time I have to do this. I killed this fucking ad. I killed it with its own hands. And now I have to redo it again because it sounded like shit. But we're professional around here. We had a great podcast. We're not going to ruin it with terrible ads. Wise Bean Coffee is what keeps me up at night when I have to redo this a second time. Wise Bean Coffee and Espresso Bar, serving the world's best coffee since 2004. www.wisebean.com. Hey at wisebean.biz, 610-867-5010. Go there tomorrow. It's 634 North New Street, Bethlehem, PA, and you can get yourself one of those pumpkin drinks that Samantha makes. They're delicious. I can't breathe correctly because I ate too much. And I had too much coffee, and it's made me speedy. Wise Bean Coffee. Go in, tell Samantha I said hello. Tell her you want the Never Again radio blend because she's selling it. Steel City Tattoo, steelcitypa.com, 314 East Broad Street, Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, 610-807-9781. John Bicknell, Elvis Lewis, Jay Cooper, Bob Bradley. Every time somebody asks me where should they go get tattooed, I tell them repeatedly, Steel City Tattoo. One of those guys can do anything you want. You can get a flying unicorn, you can get a giraffe, you can get a memorial to Cecil the Lion, which is what I have booked for tomorrow morning with John Bicknell. Go there, check him out. Steel City Tattoo, Instagram and Facebook. Amateur Athlete. Amateur Athlete is in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, 42 Westgate Mall. Amateur Athlete Skate Shop is their website. Amateur Athlete is the first skate shop ever in this area. I have the privilege of bringing Joe Yo on, and we're going to get to the nitty-gritty about starting his business and where he's at today. You can go in there and check out Nixon, Oakley, all kinds of different stuff. They got skateboards, shoes, tennis rackets, whatever. They don't have tennis rackets. They might in the back, but they don't sell them. Go in there, talk to Joe, tell him I sent you in. You get 10% off of anything you buy, and if he argues that, you can call my cell. Amateur Athlete Skate Shop is the website, and you can find them on Instagram and Facebook at Amateur Athlete. Just Amateur Athlete. SBI bail bonds. During this episode, Jesse had to leave for a night court bail. I didn't know there was night court. I just thought it was a weird TV show. SBI bail bonds of Pennsylvania. I think that's right. Jesse Shive is a very straight-up guy. He's the guy you want on your side. I think that's his next bumper sticker. But that's what you get. So if you need to, I did these commercials so awesome, and I'm totally screwing them up now. Whatever. SBI bail bonds of Pennsylvania. If you need somebody bailed out, in all seriousness, contact Jesse through his website, or you can hit me up. A couple people have done that, and I will give you his information. But he is there to help you, and if you got some friends who are in some shitty situations, Jesse's the guy to help you out. Straight shooter, folks. Shipyard Skates, shipyardskates.com, Shipyard Skates Instagram. That's my brother's skateboard company. He's out of Virginia, and he's got a ramp, and if you're in Virginia, you can just go find it, and he'll let you skate it no matter what. You don't even have to sign waivers, kids. I made all that up. Shipyardskates.com, Shipyard Skates Instagram. Go check him out. Rizart, really good friend of mine. We talk on a daily basis because we're constantly working together. If you need anything done, this is the guy to do it. He's going to paint oars for me. He's going to paint. He's going to build us a table, because I hit him up about designing a table, and we're going to make like this Sons of Anarchy podcast table. And he's like, he actually used to make furniture. So if you go to rizartblogspot.com, you can see everything he does, from motorcycle gas tanks to full motorcycles to motorcycle helmets to t-shirt design. I'm having him make a surfboard. He has all kinds of stuff going on. That's at rizartblogspot.com. You can see him on Instagram and Facebook at Rizart. Rizart at yahoo.com for inquiries on pricing or any projects. He's really flexible, and he's got some awesome ideas. 908-578-6212 is his cell phone. Our other sponsor is The Other Fish, 5959 East Broad Street, Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, 18018. They're open Tuesday through Saturday, Tuesday 5 to 10, Wednesday 5 to 10, Thursday 5 to 10, Friday 5 to 11, and Saturday 5 to 11. They're Japanese cuisine. I went over the other day and hung out with Matt. He's the owner and a chef there, and I got some awesome food, and I hung out at the bar. It's a super awesome atmosphere, and what makes that atmosphere awesome is the guys who work there. They kind of really make it their spot, and it's really cool, and you don't feel unwelcome. It's like them bringing you into their little hangout, and it's just this really cool vibe that I've only gotten in cities, and it's awesome that I can do that, and it's across the street from me. Food was top-notch. Atmosphere was awesome. Music was even better. They are the Other Fish Sushi Bar / Japanese restaurant, and they are in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and they have noodle bowls, and they have homemade ramen. You should go there. It's amazing. Please check it out. The Other Fish, 59 East Broad Street, Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Podcast you should check out is Tyler Rothrock's Definitely Right Maybe. Search DRM in iTunes, and that'll come up. And the other show you should check out is The Dope Show. We've had Andy on, and it's a hip-hop podcast, and it's awesome. And then the other show is Joshy Butter and C-Rex Extravaganza, and that is also on the Never Again Network, so you can find that through Never Again. Never Again Clothing is the company that I run, and you can find all of this stuff that I just talked about updated and on that website. It has all my sponsor information on there. It has videos. I got leg kicked by the guest that's coming on, and it has everything that you would need. I have $10 t-shirts right now. I'm taking that off next week. And it's $10 plus shipping, so you're paying like $15 for $25 t-shirts. They're super good quality. It's really good stuff. My story is on there. Read it. Find out who I am, what this company's all about. We're doing some really cool stuff. I'm at an awesome point in my life where I'm at this weird hump of almost making it, and I got podcasts now and all these positive people around me, and it's just a really cool thing. Please check it out. And that is www.neveragainclothing.com. And that's about it. Our interview tonight was awesome because this is at the end of it, but it was really cool. It was awesome stories that Carmello had, and it was all MMA and what it takes to get to the level that he fought at, and the new fighters that are fighting for him, under him, came on, and we just made some awesome friendships. And my friendship with Jesse always begins with, hit my motherfucking music!
I got me things on my mind. I got me
Never Again Radio.
There's a shit ton of people here tonight. Our guest brought a bunch of his friends. We enjoy more people, so this is going to be good. You guys probably saw the video, and this gentleman kicked me in the leg on Monday, and it fucking hurt. His name is Carmello Marrero.
Yep, got it right.
Yes.
First time.
And you can go around and introduce everybody else that's here with you.
All right, I got Mike Henniger. He's a longtime student, longtime friend. He's been part of ATT for, 4 years now? Yep. And I got Ronnie Levine, a young up-and-comer. Kid's a beast.
Classy dresser.
Classy dresser. Anybody who knows of this kid?
Unfortunately, you can't see him though.
I know. Well, right now, let me explain to everybody. He's got some pink kitten socks on.
He really does.
A pair of jeans that are like 2 sizes too tight. There's no question in his manhood. You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
And got a nice pink shirt on. Yeah, polo.
Polo.
Yeah.
Nice. Watch, too. You got a nice watch.
About a pound of gel in his hair, and he's looking good,
A lot
man.
of products.
Yeah. Got to get a picture up on the
50
web.
mile an hour test.
Right.
That's what it is.
Yep. And I got my man here, Chris Curtalo. He's been making some noise as of late, and then actually I wish it was for fighting, but this kid literally just had about 8 fights just drop out on him over the course of a year, and people have been avoiding him. And yeah, it's one of those things where he's been training hard. He's a talented kid, and he's gonna be, hopefully, knock on wood, that his fight. What's the date on it?
November 13th.
November 13th. He's gonna be fighting.
So, does that happen a lot? People backing out? With
more than you would think.
Yeah.
It's at the amateur level, it's easier to back out because there's no money involved, there's no contract. But even at that I went pro, I signed all my pro paperwork, and now I still have guys that are backing out. So I mean, it still happens at the pro level. So
yeah, and that's something you see more now. Like back in the day, it was one of those things where if you were about fighting, you really, it was kind of like, they scheduled you to fight somebody. You didn't, you weren't hopping on the internet 5 minutes later looking up video on him.
Yeah.
You were just basically like, hey, he wants to fight, I want to fight. He's from a different gym. Let's get together and let's make this fight happen. Well, today everybody sees the growth in fighting, so everybody wants to be a superstar. So what happens is everybody wants to, they want to play it safe for
they want that
right
clean
shot.
record.
Yeah. So right now, unfortunately, you have a lot of guys that are just protecting themselves. I don't know why, because listen, you can't get to the top by taking an easy path. So, it's their loss.
So how many actual fights do you got that people actually fought?
I've got 9 amateur fights.
All right.
I'm looking to make my pro debut next month. So
where's that going to be at?
The Philadelphia Armory.
Cool. So now, before we get into your entire story, like you work with both these guys and you coach them?
Yes.
So are these like how many guys you have underneath you to where it isn't a problem that you're coaching way too many guys?
Right now, what would you say? There's about 8 core guys, and then we have a bunch of guys from different parts. Like there's a bunch of guys who drive from different parts of Pennsylvania in. There's guys who from New Jersey who come in. They can't be at the everyday practice, but what they do is they try to get in. They try to get the live sparring, try to get maybe some mitts in, do some wrestling, and we're kind of known for that. We kind of open our doors to everybody. We're just about getting that quality work in. So if you're a decent guy, you're not a dickhead, you're welcome to come to our gym and just get it in.
Now, with these 2 guys underneath you, are these like he's obviously at a pro level. What level is he at?
He just had his first amateur fight.
Okay.
A really tough kid, a lot of, this is the exception. A lot of kids are looking to get in. They want to fight a guy who's 0-3, 0-2, somebody with a loss. And literally he fought the other toughest kid around in his age group. He just turned 18.
I thought you were a lot older.
Yeah.
I just turned 18 in June.
You could probably still go out tonight and get in the bars. Is that what the fancy dressing is? It's a nice, it's a nice line.
This is what I have to wear to work. But this kid I fought turned 18 about a year before I did. He was looking for a matchup for a year, and nobody wanted to fight him. Just 'cause he was like a 3-stripe purple belt in jiu-jitsu. He's been training for like 10 years. Nobody wanted to fight him. I was like, I need a fight. I need to get in there.
So when did you fight him?
August 15th.
How did it go?
I lost a split decision. Really, round 3 could have went either way, but 2 of the judges gave it to him.
Cool. Yeah, these guys showed a lot of skill. I mean, the first thing you expect when you see 2 guys in their first fight, you don't necessarily see that quality of fighting. You kind of see 2 guys just going after it, and these guys just brought a lot of skill, a lot of technique, and you could tell they cultivated their talent before getting into the cage.
Did they both come into you green, or did these guys have experience?
No, they generally speaking, I only have a handful of guys who actually started like day one to becoming a professional. One is Eddie Alvarez.
Yeah.
And he's been awesome. He's been developing every year, and he keeps getting better.
He's one of my favorites. I'm friends with a couple of his friends. I went to Allentown College with this kid Josh Huzak.
Mm-hmm.
and he worked with him, so I heard his name the whole time, and then like I saw like the whole progression of him come up,
Yeah,
and then all the
awesome.
bullshit over at Bellator, and then when he finally got to the UFC, I was just like, that's crazy. But he's a
Wrong Eddie Alvarez.
yeah. What Eddie Alvarez are you talking about?
The other Eddie Alvarez.
I
The
didn't know there
real
was
Eddie
an Eddie.
Alvarez.
Yeah, no, actually, and this is funny because this has come up quite a bit. Yeah, there's an Eddie Alvarez from Bethlehem.
Oh, all right.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and he's kind of like local guy. He's
Yeah.
been doing really well. I mean, I can't even tell you how many amateur fights he had. Probably around 15, 16 with kickboxing, and then right now he's 2-0. He had 2 awesome wins for CFFC.
So are you working with him?
Yeah, he's another guy as
Okay.
well. But get back to your question. Yeah, Ronnie had experience. You've been doing jiu-jitsu how long?
Like 2 years, year and a half.
Yeah, and Chris was with another school.
Out in Williamsport for 2 years.
What
Yeah.
made you guys go to him?
I was
Um,
immediately drawn to him. Like I knew, the quality of fighter that Carmelo was. I knew he was
Yeah.
a wrestler, and I grew up wrestling, so that was, you kind of have that feel, just that bond of being wrestlers and stuff. It's kind of a tight knit community, so. I worked out with him a couple times, and it's really kind of like was based for me. So, there's different coaches for different people, but Carmelo is really like kind of boosted my game over the last 2 years. So.
And just from me talking to you for a little bit, you're the type of person that you kind of, I think you get a good grasp on cutting through bullshit with people immediately.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I don't know, just the way you handled yourself when I first met you and how you were in the gym and how you were talking to people, like I could see where you would get that from him.
Yeah. And I tell you what, it's funny. It's I'd like to say that dealing with the bullshit came from just being a person who doesn't deal with it came from fighting, and it wasn't. It was actually business.
Yeah, no.
Dealing with shady sons of bitches and the promotion side of things and dealing with people, like, man, I got to a point I had enough. And
Yeah.
I didn't want to project to people like I'm that guy who's going to listen to you talk shit.
Yeah.
So it's easier to come off as a complete fucking dickhead. And then just have people, and then as people get to know me, that I soften up to them, and they know that, listen, I have good intentions, but I just don't, I'm not about the bullshit.
No, I mean, with doing the clothing end of it, I did it for this will be its 8th year.
Wow.
And looking back on it, like I remember this guy printed skateboards for us and just fucked us on them. And then I was working at a screen printing place, and this guy said to me, he's like, hey man, one thing in business, he's like, don't let anybody ever fuck with your money. And once he said that to me, it was kind of just like, it was like a switch. And then I was just like, wow, you actually have to be a dickhead to people in order to get shit done.
Yeah.
No,
But
I remember back in the day when I used to go to Rodney's gym years and years ago, and he gives the free week trial. And he would come in and just beat the shit out of every person that came in, and I'm like, dude, aren't you trying to get people to come in here and like be like, hey, you want to do? He's like, no, if they're gonna quit, I don't want them in my gym. And I'm like, oh, there we go. But to me, I was like, it's fucking money, man, take it. But no.
Yeah, it's one of those things, and I'm sure if you talk to Rodney now, like, that has changed quite a bit, and I'll tell you why. It's just, as much as we love this, the community of tough people, especially today, is so small that it's, if you draw a line and you say, hey, you're just gonna, if you're just gonna gauge people on their toughness, I mean, you're literally gonna be in a training session with maybe 5 guys.
Yeah.
So that being said, like, and this is something I learned, being in the gym business going on 5 years, there has to be a little bit of development. And I know now that I'm not that guy to start people off.
Yeah.
What I require of my fighters is they come to the gym, they gotta work out with, you have to be a little proficient in kickboxing, have an understanding of boxing, have an understanding of wrestling, have an understanding of jiu-jitsu, and then you got to find a way to tie it all together and make sense of it for yourself. And the big thing, just starting a team, it has to be this organic thing. As talented as a coach as you could have, it doesn't matter how talented the guy, the fighter is. If they don't vibe and they don't have that energy and they don't share that connection, then it doesn't mean anything. Because I've seen a lot of talented people in this game, and sometimes it doesn't mesh well. But getting back to the business side of things, yeah, like we started off in 3rd Street in Bethlehem. We literally had a place. What was it, like 6,000 square feet? Yeah. And dude, we were paying like over $10,000 a month for this place, right? And the problem was that, I told myself when I first got into the gym, I was like, yeah, I want 2-3 fighters, right? And I want kids classes, women's classes, and I want to bring it all together, and this is what I want to do. And I wasn't worried about the fighting. Why? Because I just got over a career fighting. I was done dealing with the bullshit. With that being said, when I brought the name into town, American Top Team, people just associated that with fighting. So the first 30 people through that door were a bunch of dudes looking to fight, and from that point on, they kind of changed the course of the gym. But I made that mistake because, listen, I don't know what you know about fighters, but they don't have any fucking money. Like, fighters are just scraping by and goddamn stop.
Yeah. I know.
You're not a fighter unless your fucking cell phone's getting shut off, the fucking your bank card's getting declined, you're getting fucking bill collectors calling you. Like, that's the life of a fighter, unfortunately, when you start out.
Now, when he came to you, you said you had jiu-jitsu background?
Yeah, I trained jiu-jitsu for about 2 years, and then my original coach moved down to Virginia, so I needed a new place to train. And American Top Team was really the only quality place around. It's about a 40-minute drive for me, but I didn't even have any intentions of fighting. But I think my second day there, I kind of weaseled my way into a sparring session just because I didn't really know what it was. And I was fighting people with MMA gloves on, and they had big gloves on. I didn't even understand what was happening. And then Mello sicked this 7-1 pro on me, and then Rob Heller, who was a super good kickboxer, and they just beat my ass. And then after that, I think I was kind of regarded as gonna be on the fight team, and I kind of liked it a lot more than getting my ass kicked. I probably should have,
So with these two being able to come in to your place like that and having that opportunity and all that, I'm guessing it was totally different when you started getting into fighting?
Oh, man. A lot of guys take it for granted that you have a place that you can do boxing, kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, and you have people even if they have a remedial understanding of the game, they could help you in some regards, whether it's holding mitts or just being a body to work out with. Back when I started, it was literally, I stumbled across a guy, Paul Majtovich, and thank God, because I was going to Ryder at the time. I was 2 weeks out of nationals at wrestling. It was my senior year. I didn't get to the point where I didn't become an All-American, long story short. And I carried this, I was salty about it, So I told myself I'm taking off two years of training, and I'm just, we'll see what happens, right? So, but 2 weeks later, I had the itch already. So I ran to this guy, Paul Majtovich, and luckily he had connections that opened up a couple doors for me. And but he had a really good understanding. He was more of a jiu-jitsu guy, but he knew he was at that time, about 13 years ago, people were starting to put together little parts of MMA. They knew that you needed a boxing coach, and you may need a kickboxing coach, you need a wrestling coach, and a jiu-jitsu coach. But from there, he hooked me up with Hardcore Gym down in Athens, and that's when I first had that introduction into real true fighting. And that's where Rory Singer, he's one of the owners of the gym. Adam Singer is the other owner. That's where Forrest Griffin came from. Brian Bowles, I don't know if you remember him. He used to be the WEC champ. And getting down there, that was my first introduction, and I was terrible. I was absolutely, I thought I was getting by being a wrestler, up north, just being a tough guy who can go to the gym, take a few hits, and just take people down and lay on them. And as you see, the game was evolving. I had to really step my game up, and eventually, that's kind of what led me to ATT.
So what was with the wrestling background, and wrestling such a huge part of the MMA scene now, what were the first things that you decided that you had to work on? I mean, did you even fuck with jiu-jitsu, or did you work with your striking, or? No,
I did a little jiu-jitsu, but the weird thing is and we still talk about it to this day, about having that dynamic of a high-level wrestler, and I use that term loosely. I was a pretty good wrestler in college. I wasn't an All-American, but having a guy like that in a jiu-jitsu room. You can have a quality jiu-jitsu guy, and you can have a mediocre wrestler come in and do relatively well with him, just because of the understanding of the hips, top pressure. These are little things we pull from
control
wrestling.
And everything. That's a lot of people don't get it. Yeah, guys that are strikers and try to do wrestling, to watch them take their first couple shots, what are you trying to do? Yeah, bend your, they don't get it. But like I said, the hardest thing I used to wrestle years and years ago. But the first thing when I started taking classes was when you wrestle, you're taught to shoot and keep your head inside. Mm-hmm. And when you do it's the opposite. Your head has to go outside. Mm-hmm. So every single time it's I'm going to get fucking choked every fucking time. Yeah.
So did you work on the striking end of it?
Yeah.
Did you fight a lot growing up?
Yeah, unfortunately. I'm not proud of it, but yeah, I was definitely that kid. I was a different type of kid. I really kept to myself. What kind of pulled me out of that seedy element was just wrestling.
Yeah.
Once I became serious about wrestling, then that was my life. And, and I'm one of those guys. I was fortunate enough to go to college, and I wrestled for Gloucester County College, and I made my way to Rider University. But, what was your question again? Go ahead.
With the striking.
Oh, yeah.
What did you work on first? What was like the main things that you started honing in on?
I was a really good athlete, but there was just something about striking. I just did not like getting hit. And it wasn't that I haven't been hit before, but I was very twitchy, and there's something that just I couldn't get comfortable with somebody throwing punches. So I would compensate by just moving a lot, circling, and just always looking for that takedown. Well, unfortunately, I ran into somebody, it was my third UFC fight, and that was with Wilson Govea. And this kid was so relaxed, and he could give two shits I was a fucking wrestler. He was just, he had in his eyes, he was just going to fuck me up. And on his second leg kick, I've realized, that was the first time I've realized I had appreciation for the leg kick. Most of the times I'm going to these gyms around the way, blah, blah, blah. These guys will kick you, but they're smacking you with their foot. This guy buried his fucking shin into my bone. And the second kick, he had a 7-inch lateral tear in my fucking quad, and man, my leg was shot after the second kick, and I was just like, man. And it was right after that fight. I was like, I want to know what this guy knows, and that's when I went down to ATT, and that's where they had people who, not just so much, they didn't try to change me. I had a lot of gyms try to change what I was about. They loved the fact that I was a wrestler because I could be beneficial to the other fighters, but they had people there that knew how to work with wrestlers, and I'll be honest with you, striking was one of those things where it didn't happen over like this gradual progression. It was like something clicked, and what happened when I started teaching striking, one day something started making sense to me, and I went into the gym and I was feeling it. I was feeling that flow they talk as a boxer, being relaxed on their feet, letting your arms swing, moving your head, being relaxed on your toes, and just being able to move. And from there, it just clicked, and when it took off, man, my striking it literally tripled overnight.
So now you have your striking down, your wrestling down, and at this point, while you're at ATT, where are you fighting?
Right now, after my first go, so I went to the UFC. I won my first fight.
But did you fight anywhere before the UFC?
Yeah, it was I fought on. Going backwards, it was Cage Fury Fighting Championships, but it was the first show.
Yeah.
I won the belt, and I beat a guy from ATT. Before that, it was Reality Fighting in New Jersey. I don't know if you guys were following it back then, but that was a pretty big thing in Atlantic City. And I had my first, 5 shows? Yeah, it was my first 5 shows were in Atlantic City, Wildwood in Atlantic City.
And by this point, you've already committed that this is what you're doing now.
Yeah.
This is your job.
Yeah, the only hiccup was in my third fight. Everything was going well. My career, I was looking promising. I had a couple tough fights, but in my third fight, I tried to throw this guy. His name is Sherman Pendergast. He actually became a UFC vet as well, but he passed away. I think it was probably 5-6 years ago now. He had cancer, but that being said, I tried to throw this guy, and I was a big thrower in college, so I launched him, and I slipped, and my fucking feet gave out, and as I landed, my head turned, and I'm laying there, and he basically was like a torpedo. His whole body was straight, and his head just landed on my jaw. So I wound up shattering my jaw.
Ugh.
I broke it. I broke both sides, right down the middle, and the meat under my tongue literally tore. It just tore. It was just that bad. It looked like a ghost mask. So you ever see the ghost mask?
Yeah.
Your whole face gives the fuck out. But I was far enough in the fight that I was winning. Right, the adrenaline was kicking, and
they didn't stop the fight.
Well, no. What happened was they went to the corner. I thought I lost some teeth, right? So
Yeah.
I kind of checked. I couldn't feel my teeth. They got pushed back.
Yeah.
The part of the jaw broke and they slid back a little bit. My coach looked, and the look in his fucking eyes when I opened my mouth, he was just like, oh. He just didn't say anything. He didn't know what to say.
It's good. Keep fighting.
It's good. He's just, is it a bad idea to maybe have him go back in, or do you have him just say, throw in the towel? It wasn't like I had overcome this pain. It was, you have that shock, that adrenaline. It was still my third fight. It was still new to me. I felt like I could go back out. So I went back out for the next round. As we're bouncing around, at the point, it was a big Dan Mergliotta. He was the ref at the time. He puts his hands on his waist. He looks at me. He goes, dude, And I have the video. He goes, dude, you all right? And then I just put my hands on my waist, and then Sherman puts his hands on his waist. He looks at me, he goes, are we fighting, dude? And I was just like, yeah. I was like, let's go. We had 4 minutes. It was about 4 minutes. For some reason, they had a 4-minute round. And I just said, fuck it. And we went with it. And the worst thing was, everything was good. I was moving. I knew I had to stay away from him. I think I won the first 2 rounds. But the problem was I shot a double leg at the end of the round. And, like, I just felt like fucking crunching. And I was trying to drive, and I was just hanging on for dear life.
Do you think they would have let that shit go now?
No. Certainly not. I think it was still new back then.
Yeah.
So people didn't know really how to react. I mean, now that it's on television and it's out there, you kind of see the worst of shit. And when somebody, snaps or pops a knee, you got to stop the fight. It's about longevity in this sport. You know? Fighting through, a pop knee or something, it's just not worth it.
So now you've done the circuit of the reality one, and you're doing that. When did you have to do you have an agent at this point? Are you contacting the UFC? Is the UFC contacting you because you're kicking people's asses? Like, how does it work?
Back in the day, I mean, it was pretty simple. Back in the day, there wasn't as many fighters, so they could keep an eye on a handful of guys. Listen, you just had to be the guy who beat the guy they were looking at, and then that's who your attention. It would just kind of go from a chain to chain. Who's beating who, and who's the guy who's undefeated. So I won the belt for CFFC. It was my first title I picked up. CFFC won, and then shortly after that, I think it was a few months, not even a few months. What was it? Probably about 2-3 months. Yeah, right after, I get a call, and it's my manager, Gary Moreno. He's like, "Listen, I got you a UFC contract." And I was like, all right. I was like, I'm sitting in a truck. I'm like, you got to be fucking shitting me. I'm like, what? This is it. I'm going to the big show. He goes, there's a downside. You got to take this first fight. You got to make this first fight happen. And I'm like, and he's like, Czech Congo. And at the time, Czech Congo was undefeated, just knocked out Gilbert Aldana and who's the guy from California, a white dude? I don't know. Some guy he just knocked out. Just need him. And the guy was like vicious, and they wanted that international star. So
yeah, Congo's no fucking joke.
Yeah. And I was just like,
you're telling him? I heard he's no fucking joke. I watch him on TV.
Yeah. So I was set. I was like, yeah, you know what? Enough time. Like I can wrestle this dude and blah blah blah. He goes, there's another catch. You got to be there in 2 weeks. And I don't know if you guys know about the UFC, but if you're fighting on a Saturday, they're flying you out on a Tuesday to do like media, pictures, photo shoots, and all that bullshit.
And this is before, like, there's so much UFC now where there's like the fight nights. You got all the shit. So you're legitimately fighting on a fucking card because that's all that was going on back then.
And it was funny because I'm out in Vegas, right? And they give you this itinerary, and literally, like, and you have to do interviews. And I couldn't do anything right. Like, it was so awkward, and I was scared shitless. And I'm sitting in my hotel room.
Were you in shape? Like, were you in decent shape 2 weeks out?
I was terrible. Like, literally, I was a guy who could wrestle, but I couldn't. Like, at that time, I couldn't even hit mitts. Like, if you asked me to hit mitts, I'd be like, do me a favor, just hold them like this, and I'll hit them as hard as I can. That's where I was at, and I knew that, but I did well, and I was coming off of like a pretty good college career wrestling, and I thought, man, maybe I can grind this guy out. I did well with a couple better guys in hardcore gym down in Georgia, and I was just like, maybe I can make this happen. So, got the call, we get out there, and it's funny as hell because they have this press conference. I didn't even know it was a fucking press conference. I'm sitting there. You have all these guys like dressed up, like, and this was the card. Anderson Silva knocked out Rich Franklin. Yeah, and so you had like all these stars. I'm sitting in a hallway, and I felt like a little 10-year-old. And like I'm supposed to be this big heavyweight, and I'm looking around. I'm just like, oh my god, like I know these guys. Like, I was excited. It was awesome. So we're sitting on the main panel, right?
Did you talk to any of the fighters, like a fanboy or anything?
No.
Like, hey, what's up?
Hey, people of similar ilk, how are you?
I would have hated to see.
How about we go out and knock some people out?
I really,
was it more like you just kind of just like kept your mouth shut and were like, I can't believe this shit's going on?
You just shut up and go with roll the punches and just kind of see what happens. But the problem was that, man, like we're sitting on the stage. Like I wish I had an undercard fight, but like no, unfortunately it was like going to be on television, and. So I'm sitting on the stage, and I just hear them, and I'm like, oh, God, they called Czech Congo up to the mic. I'm like, God damn, thank God they're not calling me. So Dana's there, and he goes, like, all right, Carmelo. And I'm like, I didn't know I was going to be on a fucking mic. I'm like, what is this shit? So I get up there and I'm like nervous as hell. I'm a deer in headlights. I'm like I'm not even saying his name right. I'm just sitting there like and you know. But that being said, I got through it, and they announced at the press conference, like basically after Congo beats me, that you know they're gonna have him fight Tim Sylvia. And I was just like,
isn't that great?
That's nice, right?
Yes.
I'm like, oh, that'd be a good fight, you know.
so after this tune-up, we're gonna tend to
Yeah, give me my check and good, man. You know, good luck to you, buddy. But yeah. So I'm just sitting there. I'm like, oh shit, like there really may not be a shot to win this. And like I said, fighting was different back then. You didn't have that exposure. You know, you lucky if you had a UFC every 3 months, and there just wasn't all these local things. So your guys aren't overexposed to it. So yeah, and after that, I mean, literally, you know, the next big thing was kind of like just getting ready for that fight mentally. Like, I mean, you're just scared. Like, I mean, I'm not gonna bullshit you. Like, I'm just sitting in my hotel room, like, oh my god. And then you have to take that walk from your hotel room, and that's when it sets. When you're taking that walk from the hotel room to the stadium.
So how long were you out there for? A week?
Yeah, they send you out on a Tuesday, and basically throughout the week, you got to do a bunch of like, you know, the slow videos.
Yeah.
You have the chubby chicks shooting.
So do you even have time to like warm up at the gym or anything like that, or like is this just all fucking media fight?
It's all media, and then you know what they do is they give you a hotel room that they throw like, you know, a $25 mat on the floor, and they're like, here, you can warm up. They give you like one of those punching bags, you fill it with water, and it has a bunch of dots on it, and it's like, yeah, there you go, you're good. Maybe a couple towels.
Nice.
You know what I mean?
So now go on where you said it hit you.
Yeah, no, the walk down to the stadium is just unreal, and that was the first time the first moments I kind of like took in the magnitude, and it was just seeing for the first time like 50,000 people. They don't care who you are. Like if you're that fighter, they're just kind of appreciative to be there, seeing the guy who's going to be fighting tonight, and they're kind of taking it in, and people want to talk to you. And nobody knew who the hell I was, and I was just the guy who was there to get knocked out by Congo. And you know, people, you know, they come up and they have the books. You're signing the books. You know, taking pictures with people. That was awkward. I was never good at that until later in my career. But then, yeah, in the locker room, literally, my warm up was ridiculous. They try to videotape you warming up because I can't hit mitts. There was like nothing you could really do. So I just had my friend Big John. I'm just like kind of shooting single legs on him. Like they're like throw punches at the camera. I'm like no, I don't want to show him anything. You know, and it was just really an awkward experience. But you know, so from there, then they call you, and the worst fucking words you ever hear are just 10 minutes. Burt Watson comes back, boom, 10 minutes. Then that's when it just, man, the nerves are at the worst. Because you just know like you're walking into a fight. And it was the first time in my career I'm like, holy hell, I'm fucking scared. And making that walk just through a cold ass stadium barefooted, and then they take you to this, you know, right before you're about to walk out, and you have these TVs around you. And you're sitting there and you're kind of like standing there and you can feel the heat from like the stadium coming in. You're just like, holy hell. And it's loud and you're like, man, this is crazy. I've never heard the crowd like that, right? They're not even making noise. They're just dancing around. They're just, you know, whatever, sitting in the stands. But when they pull that curtain back, like, oh my God, your heart rate just doubles and you just walk into the cage. See, people see that now, and they've seen it so much that they kind of, you know, guys are a little bit more prepared for it. But man, I was not ready for it.
What the hell's going through your head at that point?
Anything? Fear. You're just like, man, you really can't even focus on like what you need to do in the fight. You're just like, oh God, I'm just walking. I'm like, I just look retarded, and I'm just I'm trucking down this aisle. I'm just like, all right, here we go, let it happen, you know. And I got out there and man, made it happen. You know, I guess instincts kicked in, and wrestling just kind of saved my ass for that fight.
But when you get in there now, you get in the cage, they close the cage, and then now, do they do the whole introduction? Yeah, they do the introduction, and all I'm doing is looking across the cage, and I see this 6'6" black dude who's just fucking chiseled and just wants to fuck me up. And I'm just like, whoa, my God. I didn't even know how to fake it. I didn't even like put my hands up and just kind of like crack the elbows. I'm a wrestler, man. I just stood there and I'm like, start just hopping, looking at him. I'm like, man. So they introduce Congo first, or you first? Me first. You know, he was the star at the time. Yeah. Yeah. And then it was Buffer, right? Yeah. So what does that feel like when you're like, holy shit, all this shit's going on, it's so fucking loud, I'm standing here as over Moni, we're like, that's fucking Bruce Buffer, and he just yelled by name. Well, don't forget, like back in the day, like Bruce wasn't what he that's right. He didn't start doing the whole it's time now. Yeah. Yeah. So you know, and then I mean, I don't know, because you're so nervous, you're kind of like,
it's almost like an outer body experience where you're just kind of feeling like you're in this situation. You're just like, oh God, I just wanted it to be over as fast as possible. I wanted it to be over. I wasn't one of those guys who was just like, I'm gonna get in there and just go beat some ass. Like I was like, oh God, just survive.
So the bell rings, and then now this fucking ridiculously huge guy's heading towards you. And is there at any point where it calms down, or is it just fucking nerves?
What happens is, as soon as he kicked me, right, boom, he blasted me, and it stung. He hit me again, boom, it stung even more, and I was just like, man, I got to take this fucker down. And as soon as I got the takedown, I was like, I knew, because I was a competitor. Don't forget, like I have a lifetime experience wrestling. So as soon as I got that takedown, I was like, I can take this guy down. I go, I'm just going to do whatever the hell I got to do to just put this guy on his back and make him look bad. So if you check out the first round, I actually did pretty well. You know, after the first opening leg kicks, shot him, took him down, just rode him on top, and just tried to ground and pound. And whenever he got back up, it was just kind of staying on him. I wanted to just be glued to him. I knew he had crazy range, because I don't know, when he stands there, I mean, he can pick you off from quite a distance. But I knew I just had to close the gap and just stay on top.
So when you get through all the rounds, do you know you won when it's used to standing there?
No.
Is there because I'm sure it's crazy the entire time and your mind's just fucking going, but like in between rounds, your coaches are talking to you. Like after round 3, do you think that you're ahead?
No, because what happened was I actually suffered a concussion. I tried to throw him and I landed on my head, right? And it shook me a little bit. And I was a little out of I wasn't myself towards the end of the fight, right? But what I do remember is Forrest Griffin was actually in my corner, and he hops on the cage. He goes, dude, you fucking suck, and you just won. And he yelled it at me, and I just remember, I was just like, I think I won. Like, oh my God. And they bring me into the center. If you ever watch the interview, I'm literally like... You know, I made it to the back, and as soon as I was on the back, I like passed out, and I'm like laying on the floor in the back, and I'm like, oh God, this sucks. Like my head's just spinning, and I open my eyes, and there's just cops that don't know what to do with me, and they're just like, ah, you know. So they helped me up, got me to my locker room, and let me compose myself. And then, I had to go to the hospital then, right? Yeah. I think I went to the hospital because of some issues with my legs, and yeah.
Yes, you were on all that pain medicine.
Yeah.
So now, was there ever a point after all this, because they were figuring that he was just going to go through it like nothing, did anybody like ever say anything like, hey, you fucked us over now, because now we kind of had this plan?
The worst thing I did in my career was beat Congo.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So now, like, you just dicked him over.
Yeah, it was evident.
Did Dana or anybody approach you after the fight and say anything?
It's not that they say anything. It's just you can feel like when he's walking around, like you see who they like.
Yeah.
You guys see it now. You see Conor McGregor.
Of course.
You see that special attention.
Yeah.
And I just think like, you know, it made sense because what they wanted was the UFC's always been trying to get around the world, right?
Yep.
So they were losing crazy money. Every time they went overseas, they were losing crazy money. So they needed that international star. You know, so they wanted that, you know, what better than a good-looking, big, strong heavyweight to kind of like send that message, and they thought that he could beat Tim Sylvia. I don't think, you know, we know now that like Dana White and Tim Sylvia didn't really get along, you know, and they didn't really respect him as a champion, like he should have been respected. But yeah, I think they were excited to have that contender, and then they bring me in, and I beat him. And listen, I wasn't a better fighter; I was just a better wrestler.
Yeah,
and it kind of threw a little, you know, little problem their way. But that being said, my next fight, then what happens is, and I'm going to tell you something right now. The UFC, how they used to control fights back in the day, and this may be fucked up to say, but you tell one guy, you're going to say, hey, I like this guy. He's going to know who he's fighting 3 months out. You know? The next guy, you're going to tell him about 6 weeks out. That's a way of having one guy preparing for another guy, and you have another guy sitting in the back. You know, and I think they've done that with many people. You know, setting up fights.
Yeah.
You know? So I was that guy that I was always like, I had something to prove to myself, so I never wanted to really turn down a fight. So, you know, and then they were just like, hey, we have a guy who's 230, because I wasn't a big heavyweight. I was actually on my way, because when I broke my jaw, I lost a bunch of weight, and I was on my way to 205. And they were like, hey, we got a guy who's 6 foot, 230, and Gabriel Gonzaga. That was my second fight.
Oh my God.
I showed him the fucking ratings. This dude, I don't know if you ever, like, this guy had a bigger head than me. You know, I'm like 218. This guy gets on there. He's like 260, and he's a mean son of a bitch. And then as I'm out in Vegas, right, I'm hearing some like talk, and they're like, yeah, you know, he had a daughter who passed away like 4 months ago, and I'm like, oh my god, like this, like you know what I mean, like where's he at mentally?
Yeah,
you know, I'm still a guy who doesn't know how to fight, and it's like I got to go out and you know, and this guy was a monster, you know. But yeah, and that was my second introduction to the UFC.
Oh my god.
So his little bare ass ran across the ring, threw me on the ground, and fucking armbarred me.
How long did that take?
Not long.
So that was in the first you were with him?
You got about 30 seconds. I'll show you the video. Yeah, but...
Because I saw that you fought Congo, and I saw that you fought Gonzaga, and I've been following it for a while, and those, you know, they're still around, but those guys were like fucking young and like ridiculous back then.
Yeah.
For the fact that you just would come in there, I don't know, like that's crazy that you fought. That was your first 2 fights.
Yeah, yeah. And I tell you what, one of the best guys I ever fought was the third guy, Wilson Gouveia. Wilson Gouveia was one of those guys. You know, he was never the champion, but let me tell you something. He was the hardest hitter I've ever came across. And don't forget, I joined ATT after I fought him. And let me tell you, man, this guy had my number. Like, he just hit so hard. I mean, there was just stories about fighters from other gyms coming to ATT to train. You know, we have a big, huge facility, and people would come in. And Wilson Gouveia was just that guy who just so heavy-handed and just a natural. I think he was like a professional baseball player at one point, and he just had that ability to turn his hips. So every time he threw a kick and he just threw a punch, everything just hurt. And
he was hitting you with everything.
Yeah, and it wasn't even, he didn't have to try hard. He wasn't that guy who was a workhorse in the gym. He was just naturally talented, and he was very tough. Yeah.
So when you're going through all your fights and stuff, how's your personal life changing at this point?
Man, you know, it's as my girlfriend's sitting right behind me, my fiance.
How long have you guys been together? Because you've started this story out from the beginning, and you're asking her questions. So you guys have been together for a really long time?
We got together when I was training for my first fight. So, yeah, she's been around for everything.
Absolutely. No, I see some of the looks she's making.
Oh, dude, the stories she could tell you. Yeah. No, she, yeah. It's been a long time. And, you know, as far as personal life, you know, and these guys can even attest to it, there's something about MMA that just consumes you. You know, I used to love football. I used to love other sports. I used to like watching golf a little bit. And there was something about MMA, it just it takes all your focus. And I don't know what it is, but ever since it just got into, it trickled into my life, it was just, I've just been obsessed with it. And even today, like, I'm retired now, and I still find myself just, you know, I try to watch football, and I can't watch football. I can't watch other sports. Well, you know, I always find myself getting on MMA, the fucking MMA TV app, and just kind of checking what's going on. You know, trying to stay relevant, just seeing and following people, you know? And I don't know, you know. I don't know. Was there a question? I
was just wondering, like...
Oh, yeah, personal.
Yeah, like, I mean, you're now getting paid at a top level from UFC, and I'm not suggesting that it's what people are getting paid now.
Okay. You say this again. You thought I was getting paid?
So did you get anything for the check?
I want to know what you think. Listen, I want to know what you think getting paid is.
As soon as you say get paid, his eyes lit up, and I'm like, oh no.
I'm not saying getting paid.
No.
What I meant is you're getting money now where you don't have, like... Were you working another job while you were training up to it? Can you leave that job at this point fighting Chet Congo?
No. And I'll tell you exactly what I made. I beat Chet Congo. I got $6,000. I had a contract. It was like 3-3, 5-5, 7-7. Right? You know, it sounds good if you just, you know, you wish for the best, and you kind of go, oh man, I'm on a tear. I was undefeated at the time going into the UFC, and I was just like, man, I could actually make a chunk. But reality hits. It's like, man, you lose. You don't move up in a bracket, and you lose half your check. And people don't realize what it actually takes to actually get ready for a fight. You know, if you're doing everything right and you're getting, you know, you say you have a guy on the side who's helping hold mitts, and you're part of a boxing gym, you're kicking 20% to your gym, you're kicking another 20% to a manager or an agent. You know, maybe it's like 10 to 20, whatever. And then you got the little thing called taxes you have to pay. You know, and then it's like, you know, what do you really have for yourself? You break, even these guys now that are fortunate enough they can make $200,000, dude, you break it down, like, it doesn't last long, you know. And you got to think about quality of life. God forbid you get hurt and you're out for a year. Man, I can't tell you how many fighters I know that, like, they were guys who had those big fights, and got injured and they were out for a year, 2 years, and man, things change. That money doesn't last. It's still not there.
So
yet.
did you dump that money back into training to go on to the next?
You have a little fun. Maybe go on vacation. We went on a couple of vacations and we need to do a little bit. But it doesn't know, and you certainly know, and this is a little advice out to the guys today. You certainly have to have a job, and it can't be one of those jobs where I used to think, oh, maybe you can bounce on the side. No, you got to get a legitimate job. You got to work a 9 to 5. And I'll tell you what, the stress you're going to deal with if you don't have that type of stability, it's not worth it. And if you truly want this, you can do everything you need to do after work. But I tell these guys this because I don't want to see guys giving up everything. 10 years goes by, and guess what? Even if you have a college degree, you haven't worked a real job in 10 years.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
You put on a resume. What have you been doing for the last 10 years?
You're going to be a 32-year-old intern.
Yeah.
So, no, my advice is, until you're getting to that point where you're making at least $4 or $5 grand a fight, don't quit your day job. Don't. It's not smart.
So you have the Gonzaga fight.
Mm-hmm.
Who's after that was the guy who kicks really hard?
Yeah, Wilson Gouveia.
Yeah.
Tore my leg apart.
So after that, now you're at American Top Team, and now you're learning your striking and all that. Where do you go from there?
Well, so back in the day, there was still, you had if you had to break it into classes, you had these medium class promotions, right? A little bit better today you have lower level and then you have the upper echelon, right? Today, back in the day, you had these guys that, had a little bit of money. Venture capitalists would get together. They had a couple shows out in California, a couple shows out in Vegas, a couple shows in Florida that you can go and make decent money and whatnot. And the fight after my first UFC contract was one of the hardest mentally for me. And I was asking going into that fight, I was asking myself, do I really have it to fight? You're coming off 2 losses, and I go, man, I was just at the big show. If I don't win this fight, what's that say about me? Am I that joke? Am I going to have it, am I going to have it to get back to the big show? And I almost felt like my career kind of is based on this fight. Because if I lost it, I was like, there's no way they're going to have me back. Because once you get that taste of the UFC, everything you do after that is trying to get back to it.
Yeah.
And try to get a second contract. Well, and that was, just even in that fight, I wasn't doing well. The nerves got the best of me the first round, but it kind of shook it off. And the guy was tough, but he wasn't. He was. It was a good matchup for me, and I wanted to beat the guy. And then
now, are your nerves calm because it's not Czech Congo and Gabriel Gonzaga?
No. It's actually worse.
So, I see what you're saying, because the pressure on to win.
Yeah, because if you lose to a Czech Congo, people go, hey man, it's Czech Congo,
yeah.
Short notice fight, people would understand. Losing to a guy on a smaller level, you kind of have that. You're just like, man, I don't want to lose this fight. I need this fight to keep the ball rolling, get back on track, and keep building it. But after that fight, I went on a pretty good win streak, and I eventually got my way back there.
So you're back in the UFC now?
No, I think it was about 5 fights. Don't quote me on it because I'm terrible. It was about 5 fights, and then I got a call for WEC, and this was the last 205-pound fight that they had. I fought a guy, Steven Steinboss, and he was originally supposed to fight Mark Munoz, and then something happened with Mark. I think it was in Florida at the time, and then they had the problem with the hurricane. And I don't know if Uriah Faber was supposed to fight Mike Brown. I don't know if you know that got delayed. It got delayed because a hurricane was coming and it never showed. It kind of veered off, and it was that show. And I remember this guy had a lot of had a big huge camp, and then Alex Schoenhauer, is that his name? He was on the Ultimate Fighter. He stepped in for the fight, and then he backed out last second. So I got a call and for the WEC, and they were like, hey, listen, let me tell you what this means. UFC just purchased WEC. This is the last 205-pound fight. They're going to absorb the 205ers and take them to the UFC. Just got to win. So I took this fight on 5 days' notice. I was 232 pounds. I literally had 12 beers and a couple cheeseburgers right before I got the call. And, man, let me tell you something. Yeah, I threw my plastics on and just went sprinting down the road. I sprinted. I just ran as hard as I could for about 4 miles and just trying to get the water off. And I actually made weight for that fight. And that's what led me to my second contract. It wasn't an invitation back. It was kind of saying, hey, they didn't want to just scrap the 205ers. And they, so they just like, this is the last 205-pound fight. Boom, we're gonna move right over to the UFC.
So they're back in the UFC now. Who do you fight immediately on that?
Ryan Bader.
I saw that too. That's crazy, man.
Yeah.
He just fought last weekend, was it?
No. I had there was trying to think. I knew I got the contract, and then I got the call, and then basically I had about a little under 2 months to get ready for it.
But Bader's coming off the Ultimate Fighter, right?
He's coming off the
and
Ultimate
he's just
Fighter.
fucking knocking everybody out.
He knocked out Vinny Megalish. Did I say it right?
That's it.
Yeah, knocks him out, and then nobody would fight him, and they just wanted that guy. And I, like I said, I was that guy that I felt like I had something to prove myself. Like saying no wasn't an option. I was just happy to be back. In retrospect, I would have held off on that fight.
Yeah.
So I go into that fight, and it was just, I wasn't ready. A couple things happened. I'm not one to make excuses, and I won't bring that to this. But a couple things in my camp happened that kind of, I wasn't myself. And I'm not saying that if I was myself, I would beat him. Listen, Ryan Bader's awesome. We saw that this weekend. He's a tough dude.
Yeah.
He's a very tough dude. So, that fight happened, and then, boom, you lose, and then you have an option.
But before you go back, you're just saying you lost. You went 3 rounds with him.
Yeah.
Before that, he
fine.
had how many knockouts before that?
Yeah, he was a tough dude.
Yeah, people weren't really going 3 rounds with him. Like, I
No.
saw you went, and then I saw it was decision, and I was just like,
Yeah.
that's fucking crazy. He went 3 rounds with him.
Yeah. And he was a teammate of the guy so he was the guy I fought before him was Steven Steinboss, and they were teammates. They were in part of that Arizona Sports Club, or I think.
Yeah.
At the time. But yeah, no, he was a tough dude. I'm glad to see he's doing well, and all the power to him. But after that fight, you have an option. Like the UFC tells you, like, hey, you lost, so you may be able to sit for 6 months, or they can just release you from your contract. So after that fight, actually a week right before that fight, I don't know if you guys remember, but Full Tilt Poker was still sponsoring the UFC, right? But what they were doing was, to get brand named, they were sponsoring every fighter on the card.
Yeah.
So the UFC felt a certain type of way about this. Like, listen, you're using our airtime to broadcast your company. So they came up with that whole, you got to pay $100,000 in, and then you can sponsor whoever you want. Well, most companies can't do that. So, man, like the week of my fight, I got a call like, listen, and it was the biggest sponsorship I ever had times 2 or 3. The biggest sponsorship I had, boom, and they pulled. And it was because the UFC just pulled them out. So that sucked. So right after that, and let me tell you something, it would be, my decision to trying to go after to keep going back would have been a little bit different had I had that money. And I'll tell you why, because I had that fight, and that money went really quick. I spent a lot of money just getting ready for that fight. So there wasn't too much. I mean, all said and done, after I paid everything off, it was probably like $2,000, if that.
So you're saying if they wouldn't have pulled that poker sponsor, you would have gotten more money, and then you would have had extra money to go back into full camps to keep competing?
Then I could walk a little time, fine-tune a couple of things, and then made my way back. But then, I had a certain taste in my mouth about it, and then it is what it is,
So where did you go after that? Bellator?
No, after that, what happened? After that, I was actually invited to go down to, I went down to Aruba, and they had a tournament. And the tournament originally was supposed to be like short rounds. You were going to fight 3 short rounds in the first round, 3 short rounds in the second, and then I'll have a full fight, at the end of the tournament. So basically, if you progress. So we get there, and then the shady shit, there's no Aruban, athletic commission. They switch it to 5-5-5, 5-5-5, 5-5-5 for this tournament. So I go in there, and they take me, and it was like the number 1 and 2 guy we fought first fight. And it was, I don't know if you remember a kid, Antoine Britt. This kid hit like a fucking Mack truck, like heavy-handed, and me and him went to war. Great fight. But I literally could not continue. Like he beat me, but at the end of that fight, I was so lumped up. I had a cracked orbital, and it was one of those things. I was just like, my God, I couldn't imagine having to fight 2 more times. And he was beat up. He actually made it to the finals against I forget his name, another UFC guy. I can't think of right now, but Yeah, so basically they kind of bogart you in, so you only make like, hey, maybe $2,500, but the idea is that if you win the tournament, you're going to make 20 grand. So that kind of entice you, and all the guys on the card were kind of guys that were still trying to get to that big show. But yeah, from then you kind of get into a couple other, and then I'm trying to think. I'd actually have to pull up my record. What's your dog? You know, service. No, I'd have to look at it and just see kind of the couple fights after that.
To rewind it back a little bit, when you're in the UFC and you're doing all that stuff, and there's all this crazy shit going on, is there anything where you get to see it from a fan's perspective, like watching these big fights on the card, or are you just too fucked up from a fight, or like, you know what I mean? Like, is there any point to enjoy it at all, seeing these other fights going on?
I still enjoy fighting, but as far as being like the fan, it's just once you see behind the scenes,
it kind of ruins it all.
It's not that it ruins it, but I appreciate the insight I do have, and have a respect for what these guys go through, and just taking that leg kick. Now go watch Jose Aldo and a couple of his fights.
That was the first thing I said to Jesse when we were in the parking lot.
Yeah, now
I said, "Look at your leg; his footprints there."
Yeah,
nice.
We're like sitting by the car. I'm like, "You got one too." But then I went home and I told my dad, and he's like, "You're a fucking moron." He's like, "You could have missed days of work," and I'm just like, "Well, he didn't kick me. I said he fucking hit me, but I was like, if he kicked me, I wouldn't have fucking left." Yeah. But I said to him, I go, I can't imagine getting fucking hit like more than I did, and then still having to continue to go on and be like, I don't know.
Yeah,
it's a whole nother fucking ball game. Let alone how I felt the next day. Then you going, or any of you guys going through a full fucking fight and waking up in the morning.
Yeah,
fuck that. But it's like being in a car accident.
And like you were saying before, just having an appreciation. And I'm going to bring up a fight. I know you're a Conor fan, right? But you look at a guy like Chad Mendes. Mendes beat him up into the end, right? And it's like, knowing what I know now, it's like, can you get ready for a title fight in 2 weeks? No. I think he took that gamble, and some people don't see that and they go, man, Conor McGregor. And I think he's great for the sport. I love his energy.
For sure, but that's a totally different fight if he gets a full camp.
It's a totally different fight. And you saw what kind of fight. I mean, listen, when Chad Mendes is in shape, like he went into deep water with Jose Aldo. That tells you enough.
Oh yeah,
Jose Aldo is a real deal. I can't wait for that fight. By the way,
who are you taking in that?
One or two things can happen.
Do you think Aldo's gonna fight him? Do you actually think that he's on drugs and shit? Why do you think he didn't fight him the first time?
Why? Okay. In my opinion, kind of from the things that from some of the people I talked to and what they feel went on, is that when you see a guy like Conor McGregor, right? So he goes out, he has to do media scrum and blah blah blah. He has to go to California. UFC is just not sending Conor McGregor. He's sending his whole team. He's sending his training partners. They're giving him everything he needs to get the job done. You understand?
Yeah.
Then you have a guy like, say, not so much Chad Mendes, I don't know really, but I'm saying like the guy, whoever he's fighting, they're putting him up in a hotel and they're like, yeah, here's a pass to
who was the
LA
guy
Fitness.
He fought before he fought
Dustin Poirier?
No, it was the guy before that. The dude who did the spinning kicks, Dennis fucking, what the fuck's his name? It was the one that everyone was like, you're just setting this whole thing up for McGregor to kill him.
Seaver.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like that one. Like there was probably definitely different treatment with him and Conor McGregor.
Yeah. And so you look at that and you go, as a champion, when they cut a 5-minute promo and the champion's in it for like literally 20 seconds, like there's something going on. Like that's more than just favoritism. And I understand the UFC wants to push their brand. They want to go international.
Yeah.
They're going to build up a star. They want that international fucking fan base, and they're going to do anything to get that. But that being said, you got to be true to the sport, and it's like, listen, show your champions a little bit more respect. How often do you see Demetrius Johnson on a commercial or anything, or pushed or promoted? And
so do you think it was out of a lack of respect that he just didn't do it?
I think a couple things come into play, and I think it's just, and then there's something to be smart about it. As a coach, I look at fighters, right? Fighters have these windows, right? Windows of time where they kind of put everything together, and you see this genius almost out of some people, right? You know, you look at T.J. Dillashaw, right? And you're seeing a guy who's just figuring everything out. He's comfortable, he's confident, and
he's crazy
he's
to watch
gonna
fight.
ride that wave. You know, if McGregor's in that point, listen, it's a fight. Anything can happen. You know, you have a guy like Jose Aldo who's been through a tumultuous career and just been through so much, and and he's done so many things that at some point, did he peak? Is he coming down? We don't know that. That's kind of the question we want to have answered. But maybe it's something that he felt, that he said, hey, like, you know what? Let's let this fire burn out before we take a hit at him.
Yeah.
Maybe he knew that Mendez would be the obvious choice.
Yeah.
So you have him in there and you kind of see if he exploits his game a little bit. I don't know.
That's a lot of money for him to walk away from too.
Yeah, but I mean that money's still going to be there because who's the next guy he's going to fight?
Yeah, they're still going to want him.
Is it going to hurt him? Are the people going to turn back in, or is it going to build it up? Is it going to be one of those things where more?
No,
people
this
are gonna
fight's
turn
going to
in?
be bigger now.
Yeah.
Than it would have been.
Yep. Now, guess what? More people love Conor now.
Yeah.
His people went
I don't.
crazy. You don't?
No.
Who do you like?
I like
hate him.
I'm Irish, so like before he
I'm
was
not.
who he was, like I remember seeing him on the fucking card where he's like, Dana, give me that fucking knockout money. Before he was who he was, I watched him. You know what I mean? Like I was fucking watching that shit. But I'm Irish. I'm always rooting for the Irish guy.
Yeah.
No, I just see it. UFC tends to. It's like, I'm not gonna say like pro wrestling, but they can see some people have a personality and then they push it. I mean,
Yeah.
I listen to Chael's podcast and he's just like, you can't be that guy all the time.
Yeah.
And he goes, I was that guy all the time.
Yeah.
And that's a problem. He said he's not that guy. He comes on the camera, he knows exactly what he's saying before anybody even tells him what he's gonna say. But you see him off the camera, not the same guy.
Yeah.
And he goes, they're gonna exploit those people.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, like Demetrius Johnson, he's not really an outgoing guy.
Yeah.
He's not going to be able to sit there and bullshit and call people names, and it's just not
I
gonna
think
do
they're
it.
actually going too far with McGregor. Like it's just too much.
Well, because
I'm a
people-
fan, and
yeah.
I'm just sick of the shit. Like,
but-
oh great, another TV show of the same shit you showed 6 months ago,
Yeah.
except for you're
But see-
clipping it differently.
But I like dudes like when Tito Ortiz used to talk shit all the time.
I was a huge
And
Tito fan.
Liddell would just go, I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm just going to knock him the fuck out.
Yeah.
That's who I like. People like that just go, I'm not going to talk shit. I'm just going to do it.
Aldo said it best, and he's just like, listen, I don't speak English.
Yeah.
Like, what are you gonna do? He goes, I hear noise when you
Yo,
stand
like,
across from
oh,
me.
yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
man, it's not like you're gonna have somebody translate somebody else's bullshit. You just see this wild Irishman going nuts.
Yeah, and then
I thought it was
when it
ballsy
gets
that he took
translated
his
down,
belt.
Oh, see, that's
That
what I'm
was
saying
unreal.
is that shit was crazy.
no, it gets translated down. They're like, he said that he's going to beat you. The whole time he's like, I'm gonna go. Yeah, I hate him.
No,
I'm
but
tripping when he goes out.
I think we're at a different time now. Listen, being over the top, even just look at politics. Who's leading everything right now?
I don't follow that at all. He can answer
Exactly.
that.
Nice.
So, and you see this guy who's just over the top and just says whatever. And you know what? There's some. I think people are so fucking repressed that they just like having somebody who just says what's on their freaking mind. And
Yep.
and you have Conor and dude, I don't know what Ronnie. What was that whole thing with Conor? What was that whole where they had the panel? They had all the champions and everybody.
Yeah, that was
lined
the
up.
last recent
go
one he
big.
did, and he told him to.
I don't even know what
He's
that,
like-
that was. What was
He
that
told him
for?
he
Yeah,
told
what was
Aldo
that?
or who the because
Was
Connor's talking about when if
Get
he
your
beats
red
Aldo,
pennies.
yeah, he's gonna go right up.
Yeah,
and I
but-
think he's going to because I think that weight cutting without the IVs, I think that's affecting the shit out of him.
What was
I think he
that
looks
thing?
like death when he gets on the scale.
Yeah.
The Go Big press conference
Yes,
or whatever.
yeah, when he was
where
talking
called out,
shit on every- Cerrone and all them.
Cerrone.
But
He
then
even
I
talked shit
listened
on
to-
Mendez, which was just sad.
Yeah,
Listen, you don't call out Cerrone.
No,
Like,
well, he was on Rogan's podcast, and Rogan even said, he's like, he was nice to me backstage, and then we got out front, and he's just like, fuck you, and he's like, what? I love
All right,
Cerrone.
then.
He's probably my favorite fighter.
Yeah, man, nobody can question that guy's heart and what he brings in the sport, and to be able to step up. What was it, like 6 fights in a year?
Yeah.
That's hard, man. That's hard work, dude.
Well, he got into that. I don't know if you listen to Rogan's podcast, but he got into those fights and talked about when they called him, and he's like, that's how I've always been. You want to fucking throw down? And Rogan's like, so if they called you and was like, you're fighting fucking this person next, he's like, yeah,
When-
I don't give a fuck. Yeah, when?
When Silva fought Nick Diaz like didn't show up to a press conference or like missed his flight or whatever, and as soon as that came out as a headline, Cerrone tweeted he was like, I can make 185 pretty easily. He wanted to fight Anderson Silva.
That's crazy.
He would have.
Yeah.
What do you
It's
think
nuts.
about all the changes and everything that's going on with like the steroids and now the IV ban and all that? Like, where do you sit on all that after?
Okay.
Because you've been there, and it's
Yeah.
not somebody like me. You know, you've trained, you've done all this shit. You have a totally different perspective or look on it than most people.
And I'm going to tell you, I was a guy who was cutting about 30 pounds a week of a fight when I was making 205. And what saved me was the ability to bring myself back, not beyond back. Like I'm saying, bringing myself to a healthy level. And what people don't understand is you're going to start seeing more knockouts. And I'll tell you why. Because one thing that helps your brain rehydrate is an IV.
Yeah, and they said that's going to be the worst thing now is because people's brains aren't going to be at that hydrated
do you really
level.
want to see some dehydrated guy he gets his lights shut off? Like look how scary that is. And I think it's irresponsible of the athletic commission to actually take a way of making fighters better. They're going to suck weight anyway. We had the same problem in wrestling when we had deaths in wrestling because guys were taking diuretics and taking creatine and dehydrating.
Yeah, they would just keep taking diuretics and they'd run in the suits and run and they would just. I remember seeing guys just show up and they just like barely step on the scale and they're like, and then what's the first thing they do? Jump on the scale and just start eating and your body's in shock.
Yeah,
like you're just immediately your body just shuts down.
Yeah,
but I think their whole goal is just to say, everybody stop cutting so much weight, but everybody does it.
Yeah.
So you're affecting the whole thing now.
I think everything should just be tested. And now, listen, I don't know if it's about... I really don't understand the thought process behind it. And I understand that you want to keep people safe and you can't have these roided up monsters, this and that. But my whole thing, it comes down to levels, Why not redirect the athletic commission and have them monitoring guys, right? And taking care of them and make sure they're healthy. Don't put all this energy into just bashing, going after fighters for whatever they're taking. Yeah. And I'm telling you, these guys that got busted is because of, these guys get injured. Look what they're doing for a living. You're tearing down, you're breaking up, you're training 2-3 times a day. And what do you think happens? Is the human body built for this? It's, I don't know. And it's a tough question. And I know that, I don't want it to not get dealt with soon because, listen, I don't want to see a guy who, a talented fighter who's used to making a weight, used to a certain process, and having them, having to compromise their career just because an athletic commission who doesn't know anything about what they're talking about, and they're going to make this decision, right? And there's a guy from ATT. You have Gleason Tabal. Have you ever seen him?
Yeah.
He's a 155 pounder. This kid is a monster. And this kid busts his ass to make weight. And he does the right thing. He works hard. He makes weight. I don't know what he's going to be able to do without being able to rehydrate. Well, can you really be at 100% cutting down from 185? I don't know. And
no, not in that short amount of time.
Yeah,
a long period of time, sure. Give him a long time, and he can slowly, gradually, but not that short.
Yeah,
there's no way.
Well, you guys being around it, what do you guys think of the other big thing that everybody talks about is now that it's so fucking strict on steroids, you're seeing everybody's bodies completely change. Like Eric Silva being completely fucking chiseled, and then his next fight he just looks like he's tired and has a dad. I think they said he had a dad bod. But I mean, do you guys think that that's what that is? I mean, because he's not the first to come out and it just looks totally different.
I think I certainly know for a fact that people are more aware now. When we say steroids, we got to be really clear. There's a lot. There's a lot of different things that they cannot take now, and the problem is that these supplement companies are ahead of the testing companies, and we all heard it before. They're changing molecules, blah blah blah, yada yada yada, science, and they're making stuff that can't be tested that eventually makes it onto the list. Now these guys have to be really careful. And you saw all those guys, a couple guys got popped, got their suspensions. I just hope they figure it out. And I don't know. It's just, I'm kind of like lost right now. But what I'm saying is, I don't know. I just think it's bad. I think they should handle it a little differently.
I think there's so much going on too, even what you're just saying you're lost, but it's like that is such a fucking grab bag of bullshit going on. I mean, between the Nick Diaz shit to the testosterone shit to the IV shit, and it's just like, I don't know, it's like it just seems like nobody really has a grasp of what the fuck's going on over there at all.
I mean, it really is. Even you brought up a good point, which is Nick Diaz. I mean,
it's crazy.
Listen,
it's crazy.
5-year ban.
I think it's going to be overturned. I think he will be disciplined, but I mean to the point of he's already got, because I signed the petition on the fucking government thing. They're already way past what they need.
Yeah.
And there's so many people outspoken about it. There's people saying that they're not going to fight in Nevada, and it's just like, I don't know. It just seems like it's such a big deal that they picked the wrong fucking person to pull that shit on. And then he's taking them to court.
But like you said before, it's politics.
Yeah. But I mean, Wanderlei, he fucking won in court.
And if you just look at the general mistreatment of him in the court, listen, it's weed.
Yeah.
Come on.
I think they were
honest to
just
God.
pissed off because of the way maybe he handles himself. He's one of my other favorite fighters. I love watching his old fights where he's just like, Stockton, bitch.
Yeah.
What? He's
Well,
talking
that's
shit the whole time.
Because the way he
He's
talks.
crazy.
He talks shit and says, I don't care what you do, I'm still going to do it.
Yeah.
Did
So
you
on
see-
their end, it's like, all right, well, he's not going to listen.
Did you see the clip of him trying to plead the fifth, and he just has to keep pleading the fifth to every question?
really?
It's like
Yeah.
a 10-minute
Come
long
on.
stretch. Even his lawyer's like, listen, you're abusing the law. Like, obviously, you're just asking questions that you know he's going to answer. I plead the fifth to, yet you're still trying to make him look like an idiot. And that was kind of a microcosm to the whole situation with Nick Diaz in general.
Yeah.
But then John Jones can do all that stuff and crash and do all that stuff, and he's only got what?
Probation, 9 months.
Probation. Pregnant woman, broken arm.
If he was not a UFC fighter, he would have went to jail. He fled from the scene.
Yeah.
And then
Came back,
and
grabbed
fled
his
again.
money and drugs, and left again.
You can't
You're not
flee
going to
twice.
leave your drugs.
I mean,
Come on now, guys.
I mean, when they caught him, this is like, oh, you came back? Why did you? Why? Yeah, he just.
Yeah, I don't know, man. And that it's sad because, listen, I'm one of those guys that I really, really respect his talent. But there's always been something about John Jones that I kind of go, oh, I'm always waiting for that guy to step up and beat him, right? And I even tell my guys this. What makes those guys great isn't this long stride. It's like being a little bit faster, a little bit stronger, just having that little bit extra, And I appreciate that. I want to see that person who's has that ability to step up and just take it to the next level. Who's going to be the person to beat him? Is it going to be DC? I don't know.
Do you think?
I wanted to see Gus.
Do you think Gusty beat him the first time around?
I did.
I did too.
I thought
Yeah.
Gus won.
But John, being the champion he is, came on strong when he needed to, and he sent a message. Now, if you were going to say, like it was like that, looking at boxing back in the day, hey, you had to beat the champion.
Yeah, you could be close. You just
couldn't be
automatically
close.
lost.
It was a close fight. Yeah, and John, listen, he got the belt, still had it, and let's see what happens. Let's see how he comes back.
You think Rumble beats him if he gets his wrestling down?
Don't forget, John Jones took down DC 3 times. So let's be honest, like, man,
he's fucked.
He has that frame. I don't know what it is. He just has that. He's big, he's strong, he has range, he's athletic, he can
He's
fight
crazy.
5 rounds.
I watched it. Like, he's another one just from watching fights so much. Is I literally saw that, like, who the fuck is this guy? And he just, because there's not a lot of big KOs and shit on like the prelims. I mean, you get them here and there, but that dude was just fucking everybody
Stands
up.
out.
And then he got the elbows. I remember watching that with the fucking what's his name, the deaf guy.
Matt Hamill.
Yeah, I saw that, and then I was just like, damn. And everything after that was just a fucking blur of him just kicking the shit out of everybody.
No, but like I was saying about just just having that little bit. Look at the Anderson Silva fight when he came back, and you lost just a little bit of speed, a little bit of snap, and see what happened. Like, see how it got translated.
Were you disappointed in that fight? Or did you think it was a weird matchup to begin with?
I thought it was weird. Nick being the guy he is, he's going to exploit the opportunity to make money. This is what he does. He's a fighter. He's going to make his money. He'll take those chances. Records are for DJs. That's his mentality. Like, he doesn't care about. He wants to fight quality guys. And hats off to him because we need more fighters like that now. But I thought it was a weird matchup. I didn't like what Anderson really brought to the table in that fight. He showed a little bit of fear. He eventually loosened up a little bit, kicked, used that leg, kind of showing him that, But where was the offense? Where was the Anderson Silva that we wanted? And not to mention, he was off for 16 months or something like that. I mean, I don't know. I may be wrong, but that can take its toll. And what is he? I don't know how old he is now.
39.
39,
38.
yeah.
39. Not getting any younger.
What do you think they're going to do next? Throw him an easy fight? And do you think they're going to try and build him back up? I heard talks of him fighting Bisping.
That would be a good fight. I think Bisping will man up and bring it. I think that could be interesting because we're seeing Anderson Silva slowly decline, and you're seeing Bisping still putting together good, strong fights. So, yeah, I would actually I wouldn't be surprised if Bisping pulled it off, especially now in this point in his career.
Yeah,
1 year layoff, one fight, another year suspension. Man, you're 39 years old.
Yeah, and now you're doubting yourself.
Yeah.
Now to bring it back to what we were originally talking about before we went off with all the fighting shit. So you went through all your shit, you got through all your fights, and now you've decided to retire as a fighter. Now, is this when you started getting involved with ATT and you thought that you were going to open a gym, or like what were you doing at that point?
No, my thought process was like it got to the point where once you get there, right? And I did it. I made it. I achieved a goal on one level or another. I set out to be in the UFC. I made it. Cool. Am I satisfied with my career? No, not at all. And that's fine because in wrestling, it's like, hey, man, sometimes you don't make it to States 1 year. Guess what? That motivates you to do bigger, better things the next year. And that's the same thing with fighting. But I got to the point where the road back just wasn't as clear as it was. Like I kind of retired, when I moved back to Pennsylvania because I was living in Florida. I was living in Coconut Creek, Florida, and we moved back, and then it just kind of was that whole transition was a weird thing in itself. And I kind of got back, and I was like, what do I need to do? Like, am I gonna start chasing these crazy fights to like get back there, or is there a point that you say like, I want to open up a gym and start helping other guys? And I wanted to kind of do both, maybe, and then I get onto I get back into that local scene, fighting for XFE, at the Sands and whatnot. And it went well. Had 2 fights there, won the belt for XFE. But there was, I don't know, it was just kind of that feeling like this isn't the level I really want to do this at.
Yeah.
And to get back to where I wanted to be, it required a lot of work and time. And that took away from my relationship with my fiance. It took away time from my fighters. Like, because for me to train properly, like I needed to kind of be selfish at times. And you can't be that guy trying to motivate people. And then listen, I'm 34 years old. To motivate myself is hard enough. To be there on that level that they need me, like it would be tough. But listen, I'm a fighter. I'm still a fighter. Like I don't think that's something you really turn off in yourself. Like I still kick around ideas. I talk with my fiance all the time. Like, what would it be like to just maybe just jump in and take a fight?
What do you tell him?
She's fucking all about it.
Yeah.
She's not a soft chick.
No.
She had a fight herself. She loves she loves the idea of me just getting back in and just beating some ass. I'm a happier man when I get it out of my system.
Yeah.
These guys take the brunt of the punishment. I'm kind of a dick. So
you're back in PA, you're doing the sand stuff, and then who are you working with as far as a gym? Did you open an ATT?
Yeah, I opened up an ATT. Opened up my first gym, and then we wound up having to move just because the overhead was absolutely ridiculous. Like I said, we were paying over $10,000 for 6,000 square feet. So we moved. Oh, sorry.
You're all right.
That was my beer bottle. But don't judge me, people. I'm about 4 deep. I'm feeling pretty good.
No, the kid who's not here, he used to be he was like
worse.
10 or 15 before he got here.
Jesus.
Horrible.
Honey Badger. That's what he calls himself.
But yeah, so we moved once, and then we were on Ray Street in Allentown, and then we had to wind up moving again, and then I got into some bullshit with my business partner. And at that point, after like moving to the gym a couple times, I was just like, listen, I don't want to do the mom and pop thing. What I want to do is set up an environment where I can train fighters and kind of do what I want, have a little more time to myself. So I want to merge it with a Hammer training facility. And that's Rodney Gannet's.
And that's the gym that we went to?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yep. He's the owner. I brought my school, my members. We came over.
Dennis, I told you, throw him on the ground, man.
Good. He's creeping on me.
That's what he does.
But yeah, so and it's going well. I have more time with my guys, and now we're it's pretty cool. Like as of lately, there's people that are turning the corner, You know, what I mean by that is guys that are truly kind of figuring out their path, you know, and it's like kind of like looking into the future. People are developing. And these two especially, you got Eddie Alvarez. I got a couple guys that I sent down to Florida who are doing really well. And so, you know, it's interesting to see like when they get to that point where they're getting comfortable and they're about to make their push into seeing what they're made of, you know, and getting out to bigger shows. And
now, bringing these two guys up and helping these guys out.
Yeah.
Do you get? I mean, you say that you always want to still fight, but there's got to be something that keeps you at bay by watching these guys progress. I mean,
Yeah.
you, like, not get off on it, but like that's what you get out of this instead of what you got out of doing the
Yeah.
competing and the fighting.
Yeah, no, it certainly does, and it you know, listen, I'm truly hard on these guys. It's amazing that they're just here because like I bust their stones. These guys can count how many times am I busting your stones in a week? Endlessly.
Yeah, it'd just be ridiculous to try to count on air.
I don't want it to be easy for them. You know,
Yeah.
I send a message to them that like, listen, life's hard. This game is hard, and you know, I push them. You know, but that being said, I do dial it back. These guys know I love them. I care about them. I'll do anything for them. And I truly want the best for them. You know what I mean?
Do you corner both them when they fight, or how does it work? I mean, they're under you and under
Yeah.
your gym. I mean, you said you're fighting Philly.
Yes.
What else?
Yeah.
What other circuits you guys fighting around here? Like, how far out do you go with them?
It really depends. With Philly is what Frankie Perez.
Frankie Perez or Ryan Kerwin. I mean, there's multiple promotions out
So
there.
you got to get, like, I don't know how any of this works. We went to a boxing thing at the Sands, and I was watching that, and I was just like, I don't really know how any of this shit works on the
Yeah.
lower level. So you have to now. Do these fight promoters contact you, and they're like, hey, who do you have?
You get to a point where once you do a couple shows and they know you're a guy who kind of has a couple fighters at your gym, promoters will contact you and they'll try to get, you know, they want to see what you're about. Like, you know, they want to have a list of your guys and they're going to try to match them. That being said, you know, it's competitive now. You know, you have before, you know, just about two years ago, there was a bunch of local promotions that, you know, were starting up, and you know, they were making some noise and doing real well, and then you had like a big promotion kind of come in and buy them all out. And that hurt us because, you know, we were used to, it was about every 5-6 weeks we had cards. And when I had somebody when we were fighting at the Sands, I would have either like 5 to 7 guys fighting on the Sands. And that was just good energy for the gym. Everybody loved it. Man, we knew we were gonna go kick some ass, and then we're gonna go to an after party, have a great time with our team. And then now this bigger promotion comes in, buys everybody up, and now they have more fighters to pick from, and they just want elite fighters, you know. And I don't really understand their thought process because a lot of our guys, you know, they sold a lot of tickets, they did real well, they're tough guys, but they have to be developed. You know, and then you have everybody wants to be the next UFC, so they think that, you know, by being elitist and cutting people out, you know, it's for good business. But then it starts hurting ticket sales. They haven't had a crowd like they had, you know, a couple years ago. They used to pack out that place. The Sands was an awesome place to fight.
No, it doesn't seem like the MMA vibe for that place is kind of what it was before.
No.
It just kind of, I mean, it just seems like it's dying off. I mean, I used to see fights all the time on Facebook, like, hey, this is going on, this is going on, and that's just slowly. Even when we were there for the boxing fight, I was going to be like, when's the next fight here?
Yeah. Yeah, and it sucks, but I hope, you know, there's a couple things going on right now that I hope come 2016, you're going to see the introduction of a couple other promotions. And, you know, and I'm excited because like that's what my guys need, you know.
Yeah.
I have guys that are just trying to fight. They want their shot. They want their time. Their life essentially gets put on hold, you know, and they got to train. They want to train and just do what they love.
What's that like for you, putting all that time and work in, and then you just can't get a fucking break on a fight?
It's frustrating more than anything. I mean, my last 2 fights that got canceled, the guys pulled out 2 days before the weigh-in. So, especially in my last fight, it was supposed to be my first pro fight. I was super excited. Went through camp. You know, I'm training with some of the toughest guys. I'm training with him every day. I'm training with guys that are in the UFC, and you know, you do all that work, and then finally you want it to pay off. And you know, 3 days out, I get a phone call, and I'm already down 22 pounds, I think. You know, I only had like 5 more pounds to go, and you get that phone call. Oh, the guy pretty much said he's not going to fight this weekend, and there's nothing that we can do about it.
And you don't get paid.
Luckily,
or did they throw you anything?
Luckily, because I was under contract, and that was the second contract I had signed with that promotion, the promoter was good enough to give me the show money at least.
Yeah, but
You
you're
know,
still working a full-time job, and
I bartend on the weekends and I train.
bartending's good money, man.
Sometimes depends.
Yeah.
But yeah, I personal train out of Hammer as well. So
cool.
I'm making money here and there, but
Yeah.
you know, everything that I do is dumped into either gas to go train with, you know, certain guys, or new gear because I'm constantly in the gym banging my gear up. So it's, you know, the money it comes and goes, but you know, I want to get that first fight in. That way I can start making some money and start climbing up the ladder a little bit.
And that's in Philadelphia when?
November 13th.
Okay.
Friday the 13th.
Nice. It's a good time to have a fight.
Hell yeah.
What about you? When's your next one coming up? Or what do you got going on? You're a young buck.
Yeah, I'm
What are you
18,
doing outside
know.
of the fighting? You
I,
working at the gym? What do you do?
No, I work at just like a packaging protective company. I'm just like clerical office job.
Yeah.
Like receptionist type work. But I live at home, you know. I don't really, and I'm an 0-1 amateur. I don't really have problems with guys pulling out of fights or anything. It's gonna be pretty easy to find me a matchup. Guys are gonna think that they can get a free win off of me. But November 21st, Saturday in Philadelphia for Dead Serious, I'm likely fighting. And then we'll see where it goes from there. Hopefully all goes according to plan and I can fight one more time by the end of the year. After that, I'd like to be 2-1 by the end of the year.
What I do with a couple other guys, I think I was telling you or somebody before that, is we have a local comedian that, and I always try and just help people out who are just trying to get places where, like, I'm myself. It's like what I learned doing this over the time is it really takes help from other people to get the name out there. But I'll have time and you guys can come back on and push those fights, and whenever you guys are fighting, since we kind of made like a connection here, if you guys want, I'll bring you guys back on whenever, because I've been dying to like half this time I was just listening. Wasn't even like doing a good job hosting. Like, I'm so into MMA, like I love it, and I'd bring you guys back on whenever to talk.
That's great.
And same with you. If you ever got anybody or you want to promote or bring anybody on, like that's what this whole platform's for. Because it's tough being, you know, and like I work a full-time job, and like what you said, you know, you got to come out after work and you got to do your shit for that. And it's like I'm here every fucking day, and it's fucking tough to try and make that shit. So I can help you guys out as much as you can with promoting it and try and get a bunch of people to go down.
Thank you.
That'd be great.
That's
Thank
awesome.
What else do you do outside of? I mean, so you're coaching the guys coming up, but I also noticed, like, do you guys have classes there?
Yeah, we have.
Because it's just not you guys just don't bring in fighters.
No,
like
no,
you're
no,
training these two. Like I saw there was like people just coming in and hitting the bag, and like people were coming in like a regular gym.
Yeah, you know, it's different strokes for different folks, you know. So what we do is we just try to cater to everybody. You know, you have those people that want to just get that full experience. They want to do everything. They want to kickbox, box. They want to wrestle. They want to do jiu-jitsu. And then you have some people that just want to come in and hit a bag and just work out, lift some weights. You know, we have something for everybody, and it's awesome. If you want private training, some people prefer just that one-on-one attention. You know, we have that's available, whether it's strength and conditioning, whether it's kickboxing, boxing, jiu-jitsu. Yeah, and so, you know, we have everything, you know, Muay Thai classes with Chris Corley, Will Miranda's doing the boxing.
Yeah.
You know, we have gi classes, and that's kind of, you know, that's the base of the gym right now. Like that's what pays the bills. Because like I said, you know, I put my time into these guys because I want to see them develop. The idea is that you're going to find the guy who's going to put the work in and get to the top. And, you know,
what was the class you were teaching when we came out? Was that wrestling?
Yeah, that was wrestling.
So
class.
then, like, so anybody who's looking to go to the gym, because I didn't want it to come off as just you guys just train fighters.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody wants to go there and they're just looking to drop some weight, they're looking to get in shape, or they're just looking to learn anything, they go in, they talk to the guy behind the counter, and then you guys have a schedule of when.
Yes,
like
we have a full schedule, and then the fight schedule is something in itself.
So what's the full schedule lineup if you know it? Like Monday's wrestling.
Man, it's one of those facilities. We got one, you know, 3 to 5 training floors. You know, that's with the weight room and stuff. So there's multiple classes. You know, you could have kickboxing and boxing going at the same time. Women's fight fit.
Yeah, it looked like there was a lot going on.
Yeah. So it's, you know, whatever your schedule is. We have morning classes, night classes.
Yeah.
Just come in, check it out, try a free week, try 2. You know, just it has to be organic, and that's one thing that we really emphasize, is that we want people that want to be there. You know, every now and then, because MMA is one of those aggressive sports, sometimes it pulls in the dickheads. If you're an asshole and you just want to be that person who's beating up people, you're not my guy.
No, I didn't
You know
get it.
what I mean?
Like when I lived in Virginia, I went to a Gold's Gym, and immediately you walk in, you're like, hey, there's nothing but dickheads in here. I didn't get that vibe at all. Like it seemed like everybody got along. It seemed like whoever was working with the people, it was very like, I don't know, it was an extremely friendly atmosphere.
Yeah, and I don't care how talented you are. If you're not a good person, I'm not investing my energy and time, because one thing these guys will tell you, dude, it's a lot of time. It's not about just showing up for a scheduled time, this and that. It's a vested interest in your guys. You got to care about them. If you don't care about your guys, then you need a coach that's going to guide you, because there's so much stuff. Even what like he's been through, he's being light right now. There's a lot of shit that happened this whole year that just kind of culminates to just, getting ready, and you just want that one. You just need that one fight to make it happen and just get it out of your system. You let the lead out of the pencil, and it got pulled away 8 times. It just sucks.
So 8 in a row you've gone without not being able to fight?
Yeah, my last fight was May 11th of last year, so we're talking like 18 months now. And I've been through probably 6 different promotions with 8 or 9 different opponents that either fell through. I've had excuses where, oh, I'm not ready. My coach has to have emergency surgery this weekend. Like,
I just don't see people. Why would you put the time and effort into all that shit and then?
Because some of these fighters lack guidance.
Yeah.
They lack somebody that knows what it's going to take to really get there and what you have to do. And I'm not a delusional coach. You have some of these coaches that just think they're the answer to everything you need. Listen, I am not the answer to everything you need. What I have is a general broad understanding of what you need to do to get to a certain place. I'm not that guy who I hoard my fighters. I go, oh man, you just train with me. I tell my guys, the first thing I tell them is get out there, go cross-train, go meet as many people as you can, get your name out there, be that awesome guy who you're going to help out fighters everywhere, And that's what kind of separates me. There's a handful of coaches that we work with that are like-minded. They like kind of cross-training, and that's where our sport is, especially in the Northeast region, where you're not going to find 20 fighters at one gym, And so what you have to do is you got to cross-train. You got to give your guys different looks and kind of build this overall experience that you feel like you're ready for anything.
So when you guys are going through this, are you just strictly staying in the Allentown one, or are you guys dumping off into other ATTs outside of this area?
Well, the idea is that we get them to a point where I want to send them down to the main campus. That's under Ricardo Laborio, Conan Silveira, and Dan Lambert's the owner, and that facility is a mecca of fighting. They'll have anywhere between 40 to 60 fighters there at any given time.
Have you been out there yet?
I haven't had a chance to make the trip. I'm hoping to go this December, actually, after my first fight. So hopefully I can get down there and train with the UFC guys and really see what it's about.
Now, is that your call on whether or not he goes? Because, it's your reputation if you send somebody out there who's not ready to go out there.
Yes, like that invitation comes at a certain point. When you're putting in that, when I'm with you, I feel what you're about. It's not that they can't go down anytime they want. They're always welcome there.
Yeah.
But the idea is that I want to send people that can be beneficial to that team as a whole. That's my idea. When I feel like you're capable of helping the people out down there.
So it's not just like you're sending somebody up there to learn. You're sending somebody there who's going to be able to maybe help somebody out with something that they have a weakness on. Yep. So you're looking for a completely well-rounded individual who's mature at this point, who has interacting skills, who you think sees somebody doing something, and he's just like, hey, if you did it this way, and there's no, I don't know. That takes a specific type of person to be able to pick that out, man.
Yeah, it's tricky. And I tell you, some of the, and at one point in time, man, I was running a gym, but there was something off with the vibe, right? So there was a couple of things I needed to nip in the butt, and one of the things I did was, like, at one given time, I had my 3 top guys. I had to kick them out of the gym.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was because they were becoming selfish. They didn't really understand. They were content with being the star in Allentown. Being the star in Allentown's like being the coolest kid in 3rd grade. Nobody gives a shit. You understand? I want the guy who's being focused, who's willing to dream big and just go after that goal of being in the UFC. You know what I mean? But it takes time.
Speaking of goals, is that your goal?
Yeah, I want to take this as far as I can.
How old are you?
24.
You guys are so young.
He's really young. Some guys I gotta like kick him in the ass.
You guys look older.
Some guys I got to kick him in the ass and get him motivated. Some guys I got to throw out of the gym.
Yeah.
These young guys, this guy, like, you really got to pull him out of the gym. I have to tell him, like, you're not doing anything today. Like, you got to relax. but I'll go and roll and run. It's like, Brian Stan just wrote a good article.
I saw that.
Yeah, and it was about guys overtraining. And it's like you have to have active rest. Guys, both these guys don't understand.
Are you guys both in there every day?
Yeah, and now that I have a fight coming up, I'm in there two times a day easily, hours in the gym.
Do you live locally?
Right in Easton, yeah. I was living in New Jersey 2 weeks ago, though, so I was making a 45
That's what I was saying.
commute.
What's your commute?
About 40 minutes.
And you're there every day?
I usually train 6 days a week, twice a day, but sometimes it's just cardio where I live, or like strength and conditioning with another coach near where I live. So I don't have to make the drive too much. And
now,
then,
are you guys, because they're in, is this a separate program that these guys are in? Were you, because like, you know what I mean? Like, are you guys going to the same classes that are available to the public, or is this different?
When you're starting out, right, and this started from 3rd Street, right, I didn't want to build a curriculum where it was, oh, well, you teach moms this, you teach kids this, you teach, athletes this. No, what you do is you kind of clean up your curriculum and you say, okay, we want to teach people actually how to fight, and we want to start from the fighter and work backwards. And why teach fundamental stuff that just doesn't work? So we're not as complex as some other gyms. We keep it. We're teaching.
Well, that wrestling class that was mixed with these guys as well as other people and women and everybody else. And
I'm telling you something. If you come in and you check out our women's class, dude, you're gonna see 10 chicks that know how to throw punches. They know how to kick. They can take care of themselves. I am not shitting you. I can't tell you how many guys tried to do what the women do. These are the normal guys. They step in and they just go, oh, we'll do a women's class. And you got these women doing sit-ups and they're just blowing out push-ups and hitting the bag, and they're going nonstop for 2 straight classes. And you see these guys sitting off on the side, sucking down water, like, I just want to hit the heavy bag. And that's this kind of, and the instructor, and this isn't just myself. I had really good instructors. I had Alec Morales doing boxing, Chris Corley. I had Anthony Febo doing jiu-jitsu, and these guys loved what they did, and we just meshed really well. We all had our different outlooks on what fighting and what we like to do and whatnot. But that being said, we had a respect and we loved each other, and we kind of loved what we put together.
Yeah, I mean, I could tell when I first met you, and then we went outside, I said to him, I mean, it's what we do, like, it was a weird vibe when everybody comes in. And every Friday I interview a stranger. So, you know what I mean? Sometimes they're my friends, but most of the time it's people I have no clue who they are. And I said to him, even when you shook my hand when you were going to kick me, I was just, I already knew then. I was just like, all right, it's going to be a good show. Like, he's a good dude. He's very upfront. He's a very real guy. And that comes off... It came off that way, and you could tell from talking to you this entire time that all of that shit that you went through, that you kind of just, you just lightheartedly were like, oh, whatever, I was in the UFC and all that. But that whole time you were there, you could tell that you just soaked everything up as a sponge, and now you're just kind of just like blowing it all out and just doing all this stuff with all these people, and like, there's probably so many people that would take advantage of the fact that they were in the UFC and exploit it and just make a gym and take everybody's money and do shit like that. And it really seems like you just absolutely give a shit about what you're doing.
Yeah, and sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. I literally, I can't really think of. I don't think I've ever hung like a picture of myself in the gym.
No, there's nothing in that gym that even states that you were anywhere.
Yeah, and I just. And I've been told by other people that, like, no, you got to be that guy. And I didn't want to be that guy. I'm not better than these guys. I had an opportunity to go to a certain place and get that taste of, like, being there. I want to share that with them. I want them to be ready. The reason I'm bringing these 2 guys is because these guys have a future. I have other guys as well. Don't be fooled. But I want these guys just to be here, see what this is about, be comfortable in this type of atmosphere. And a lot of guys aren't. And today, unfortunately, look what Conor McGregor can do with just, with a shitload of talent, and he has some chops, man. He gets out there and he sells fights.
Yeah.
He has a nation behind him.
I stopped watching The Ultimate Fighter just because it's literally the same thing over and over again. Yeah. And I literally fast forward until it's him and Faber standing at the door, and then he rips into Faber, and Faber tries to keep up, but he just can't. But I mean, that's I'm only tuning into that because he's there and it's what he does and it's what he sells.
What do you think he does? Is this guy chewing down Adderall and then getting on camera? Like, this dude is like.
I think he was fucking poor, and he's got money, and he fucking knows that, like what you were saying, where it's all going to be gone, and he was like, why stand back here and just kind of be the guy that's really good when he could just open his fucking mouth? And I think once he figured it out, he was like, fuck it.
Yeah.
And he just doesn't care about shit and says whatever he wants.
Yeah.
I love him. I think it's great. That shit, when he took Aldo's belt, you don't see that shit at fucking press conferences. I'll watch all of his press conferences because of that.
Yeah.
You know, I'm into it. Like, I stay up till 3 in the morning and wait for the press conference to go on and all that shit. But it's like, when he's there, it's like, you know, he's coming out in a suit. He's going to start talking about some ridiculous shit. He's already going to start talking shit on the next person that he's going to fight. But some people fucking hate it. I'm sure you do.
I hate him.
All right. You got to do me one favor.
What?
I want you to name one other Irish athlete.
Oh.
Just one.
The Paddy.
From Ireland.
What's the guy fighting?
Paddy O'Sullivan?
No. It's
Come on, buddy.
I know. I can't even get his
Do
last
your
fucking
people
name
proud.
out.
Let me hear it.
Paddy O'Hooligan or whatever.
I
can't.
That sounds made up.
Patrick O'Houlihan? Wasn't he the guy from Dodgeball?
It's Patty Houlihan.
Houlihan?
Yeah, it's
Oh,
Patty
Houlihan?
Houlihan.
No, I mean the Irish
Chicken
guys. They didn't
Dodger
come
and
on the
chicken
scene
Dodger
really.
ball.
Like watching movies?
Isn't
Is
that
this
his
a real
name?
a- is this a real athlete?
He's on the
Yeah,
next
he was
card
a
with Poirier.
super good dodgeball player.
But the guy is on the fucking card with fucking. What do you think's gonna happen with that? The guy that beat McGregor.
Joe Duffy.
He's fighting Dustin Poirier.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, listen, like I said, like you have these fighters that they have this window, like where they all of a sudden everything is in line, and you see them just running at the highest level. Like mentally, they're there, they're positive, they're hard working, they're putting their time in, and McGregor's in that spot. You know what I mean? That's where he's at right now, and like nothing phases him, and he has an indomitable spirit, and that's just awesome to see and appreciate. Do I think a guy that beat him early on is going to have anything for him? No. I think McGregor's going to go walk in there and just fuck him up.
Well, I was thinking. That's what I was thinking. It too is. Do you think that? I mean, Poirier or whatever. Fucking Dustin.
Yeah.
I mean, he's solid. Do you think that he's gonna fuck this dude up?
Yeah, but like I was saying about before, about kind of the attention a guy like that gets, right? So you have a guy, Dustin, who you know, he goes out to a UFC. He's sitting in a hotel room, gets to work out in the hotel gym, and then they even showed just to show you where it's at. You know, Lorenzo Fertitta has a private gym. I think it's in the basement of the Palms. Have you seen that gym?
Yeah,
and
it's
you
like,
have only a handful of guys has.
They say it's the UFC gym, but not everybody's using it.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like that. That's how they. But that's listen. They and you know what? They're a business. They want to make money. They're gonna back who they want. It's just maybe it's smart business, and I'm just missing it. But like, to me, I want to see guys that are, you know, equal guys treated right. Both guys getting attention. You know, and even though he, you know, say Dustin doesn't have the chops that McGregor has, I want to see him get a fair shake, and I want them treated equally.
Yeah.
You know, it's like going to school and you got the teacher who has the teacher's pet.
Well, what do you think about them throwing home at Rousey?
I don't know. You know, and I'm gonna say this, and no offense, earmuffs, Amy. You know, women's fighting is like sword fighting with wiffle ball bats. It doesn't, it stings a little bit, but it's not,
What do you think that there's just not a
To
talent
answer
pool
your
for somebody
question,
like
I don't
that?
like Ronda Rousey. You don't put her in the same fucking league as Chris Weidman, Anderson Silva. She's not the greatest fighter of all time. Stop this nonsense. There's a fucking video online. She's wrestling with a 16-year-old wrestler who's whooping her ass. Like, stop.
Well, that's
Floyd Mayweather
what I'm
knocking the
saying,
fuck
though,
out.
is that
Come on.
with the hype behind her and everything they do with that, with selling those cards, and they do an extremely good job at doing that, do you think there's even anybody in that fucking weight class that's, like, she's a good athlete? Do you think
it's a new weight class? Like,
Yeah.
listen, it's new. You know, she was no. Let me tell you something. She is a legitimate athlete.
Yeah.
Probably one of the only. I mean, okay, let me take that back because I'll catch some shit. Whatever. But she was that legitimate tough. And a tough girl, good athlete. She's been through her level of shit. I read a couple of things from her book, and she had a rough life. And I think that motivates her, and it's great. I think she's doing good things for fighting, But I don't like the idea that you're just going to make this person bigger than life.
Yeah.
None of us are bigger than life. We're all fucking humans. She has her path. She's doing well right now. I don't think Holmes has the ability to really threaten her.
She's had, 3 fights? since she came over?
I think she had about three UFC fights.
And I don't think
Listen,
she
was
finished
kickboxing,
anybody,
right?
really.
Wasn't she?
No, she was boxer, yeah.
You know, and you
yeah.
can't say Ronda Rousey and not bring up the whole thing with Christina Cyborg.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, listen, you started your career at 45. You want to fight Mayweather. You're the Mike Tyson of your division. You're the next Mike Tyson, female Mike Tyson, and then you're not gonna.
You gotta go. I can wrap it up.
All right. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, go on.
No, then you have this, you know, and then she won't go up and wait to go fight somebody. Guess what? Let's look at the true champions. Anderson Silva. Anderson Silva won at the 205. You told him to go 205. He won at 205 and he beat some ass. You know, you look at Chris Weidman. They said, who do you want to fight? He goes, I want to fight John Jones. Why? Because it was the challenge. Like, why are we here? To be tested. Then test yourself. And then she brings up the whole thing doing steroids. Listen, that's fucked up. It really is. And I feel bad that, you know, she did. But listen, I don't know if Cyborg has been tested since. But that being said, if she has and she's clean, then put it out there.
Yeah.
You know, she has.
I don't know. I love reading up on it and all that, and I could talk for fucking hours on it. And I want to bring you guys back on, but I just really wanted to get on because your story is awesome, and it was just so cool to hear it in person. And a lot of people were hitting me up in the MMA world on like Instagram and shit, and like, you know what I mean, like I got a lot from bringing you on, and I hope that you get something out of this. But anytime you guys want to come on and promote shit, or I mean, you don't have to come on with him. You guys have an open invitation. I'll give you my numbers, and when you guys fights are coming up and it's close, and I love going to the shit, so I'm gonna talk to you about even trying to get down to your fight and find out where it is. But I'll bring you guys both back on and push the shit out of you. But I want to thank you guys for even coming on and taking the time out, and I know you guys are busy, but it was a blast having you on here.
Yeah, thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, man.
No problem. And then Eric.
It was a lot of fun.
Didn't think I was going to do it this week, so I did not put any thought into it whatsoever.